In District 2, Democratic Representative Mark Pocan also will keep his seat with a win over Republican challenger Eric Olson. You can see Pocan winning this race fairly handedly, 70% of the vote. He says his focus will continue to be representing the needs of the people of Wisconsin and those people within his district.
We have unique needs here in South Central Wisconsin that maybe people in New York or Idaho don't have, and I just have to make sure that I'm bringing those values to Washington.
And Pocan has served in this role for 12 years.